Hi again, everybody. Peter here again. So, in my days of racing, when I was a kid, I didn't have always an easy time of getting to the races, motocross back in the early 70s. Um, anyway, I would hitch a ride with people that I knew that were sort of in the same area, but they went out of their way a little bit to help me out. They'd pick me up, and my bike and I, and we'd go to the races with them, and um, it worked out pretty good. I mean, I didn't get to every race that I wanted to, but most of the time. Well, back in 72, I think it was, 73, um, I was getting close to being promoted to amateur in the New England Sports Committee. And I needed, I forget how many points, only a couple, 3 points to get moved to the amateur rank from novice. And, that was the stepping stone to becoming an expert, which experts in those days, the pro category, if you will, they carried a great deal of respect just by being an expert. That meant that you made it up through the ranks, and you had to do pretty well. I mean, if you weren't a winner, you finished in the points a lot, and the point the advancement points for your skill. Uh, they were relatively difficult to accumulate. You didn't need a lot of points, but they were still hard to come by. At any rate, it was getting late in the season, and I didn't have a driver's license yet. Obviously, I was hitching rides, but I was, I think, 15 at the time. And my friends that were, uh, that had been helping me out, well, they were older and they were going off to college. So it wasn't always, convenient for them to be able to help me out. So this one weekend, there was a race at Arundel, Maine, and I lived in southern New Hampshire. And Arundel, Maine, I think it was about 80 miles, give or take a little bit. Exit 4, I think it was, on Route 95 at the time, in Maine. Anyway, I live close to the new stretch of Route 111, and I I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was just ate up. I wanted to race so bad it wasn't funny. Well, it was a little too far to try to, like ride the power lines there. Plus, I had no way to take anything with me, some gas or whatever. But I'm sure I could have found some. Probably could have, bummed help, tools, whatever, from people that I knew at the races. But I had to get there. So I decided I'll get there myself. I'll hitchhike. I know. Go ahead, laugh. I think back on it now and uh, some of the things we do to do what we want to do. So what I did the night before, I made this box up. I put the bare minimum of stuff, of course, and my riding gear, and I had a little toolbox that, now would have passed for a small tackle box. And I made up a sign that said Arundel, Maine. And it was about, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning maybe. And I pushed my bike about a mile out to Route 111. Now keep in mind back then, a 24-hour convenience store or something like that was very unusual. Even 95 between Florida and the Northeast, most of the stations along the road closed at midnight. I mean, those were the times. Well, anyway, I go out there and, I'm out there, I don't know how long. I didn't carry a watch. But I'm out there, and not many people on the road Sunday morning. Anyway, off in the distance, I hear a diesel engine coming, and it's a truck, tractor trailer. And the guy stops and he says, I'm going right by Arundel. I know where it is. He says, I can give you a ride. Um, let's load up your stuff. I just was beside myself as he helped me load that bighorn of mine up onto the back of the truck, up on the deck plate behind the cab. And of course, back then, I mean, you could hitchhike and you didn't have a lot to worry about. Not like now. I wouldn't want to be that kid with his motorcycle hitching a ride today. But be that as it is, we get loaded up and we get underway. And he couldn't get into the track with that rig of his, but he brought me to the entrance of the road leading in. Well, then he asked me how I was getting home, and I said, well, I hadn't worked that part out yet, but I'd, figure something out, get a ride from somebody or something. He says, well, I could probably be coming back by here about the time you're going to be done. You guys, you can't run after dark, right? I said, no. I said, if it's dark, it's late. He says, well, I'll drive over here and I'll blow the air horns, and if you need a ride back, I'll give you a ride back. How's that? And I said, hey, that'd be great, So I went out and I raced and I won both motos. I just was, on top of the world. And then, I was like, well, how am I going to get home? It was still, it was still a ways to go for dark, but still, So I gathered my stuff up and changed my clothes. And I said, well, I asked a couple people and they couldn't give me a ride. So next thing I know, I look out by the road and there he is. There's the potato hauler. And he blew his air horns and I went out there and we loaded up, and I'll be darned if you didn't give me a ride back right to my front door. And to this day, that was one of the neatest days of my life ever. Talking about just happenstance and the kindness of strangers. It makes you almost want to shed a tear. It really does. It's welling me up right now. It was a hell of a gift. Thank you, Mr. Potato Hauler. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Bye now.